and gentlemen, welcome to UG Talks. We're so excited to be with you guys one more time. I am joined here by beautiful ladies.
Oh, Emily. Hi, I'm Emily.
And also by Miss.
And I'm Miko.
And we are really excited to talk to you guys today, specifically because this topic is very much on emotions. We're going to finish that up this series. We're talking specifically about anger, forgiveness, and empathy. And if I'm honest, it's the three things I probably struggle the most with.
Yes. I mean, I don't struggle with being angry, but I mean the forgiveness and empathy part.
Amen on that one, right on there. And so let's just dive right in and get into it.
When
we're talking about anger. Oh my goodness, anger.
Anger is such a strong emotion.
It is. It is.
Tell me why you think it's like one of the strongest emotions.
I think because it can go like many different ways. It just depends on what you do with that anger. And it's intense.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, anger is so intense. And it could drive you like to do different things depending on the situation.
How do you guys respond to anger?
It depends. It really depends on the situation.
See, I have two different kinds of anger. I have anger where I just want to like throw bottles or like throw something at the wall.
Bottles. She said bottles. She didn't say like,
if you know, you know.
Listen, it's gonna make some damage right now.
Yes, and then my other anger is like that quiet anger where I just sit with
Ooh.
it. And I'm just, my like blood is boiling inside of me. Like those are my two angers.
I feel like
they sound really bad.
That's
but
a
like,
scarier angry when you're like just sitting there and you know something's wrong, but you don't want to ask them because then they're like, and you're gonna be like, sorry.
Yeah, that's why I say it's like so intense because you could do so many things with those.
You can.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's why I love where it says like that. Jesus felt all the emotions. He felt anger, but in his anger, he didn't sin.
Yeah.
Now that's something that I can't always relate to.
Oh,
right?
Because oh my goodness, like I am probably one of the most emotional creatures. Like everything.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
Everything hurts
Girl,
my
yeah.
feelings. How do you guys feel? Like everything makes me cry. Like whether I'm sad,
when I'm
happy.
frustrated.
For sure.
Yes.
When I'm already like super tired and then more things just keep adding on, it's like, can I get a break? And then that's when it's just like, if the last person is to take me off, I'm so sorry, you're gonna get the heat. But like, I mean, that's obviously not the greatest thing. I think with the devotional, I liked how it kind of, like in the Bible, how it gives analogies to relate to us as humans to like God or like Jesus, you know? And so it's talking about the story of when Jesus went into the temple and was so mad that he flipped the chairs and the tables, and he was really mad. And I was like, wow, like that's something that I want to do. Like that's something that I have done and probably will do again. And it's like, okay, so if Jesus did it, then that's okay. But it talks about like it explained his anger. And what was it? It was
righteous anger.
It was righteous
anger. We call
anger.
that righteous anger. Because I mean, if I'm being a little honest, like I've broken stuff in my anger. I mean, I think we all have.
Oh yeah.
Right? But I can also admit that my anger was probably not righteous when I did that. And I think what is also weird about anger is for me, like I can I have a quiet anger with you like that, but I think my quiet anger, guys, I acknowledge I need Jesus, okay? Because
we all need Jesus.
We all need Jesus.
My quiet anger is probably like I'm stabbing you in my silence.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel that.
Like I'm cutting you.
Like you're beating them up, but only inside your head, and only like you and God can see. So God's like, oh my goodness.
Like I'm thinking of ways. You know, this is why I need Jesus. There's no denying I need Jesus.
Right.
But there's also like frustration and anger that just hurts my feelings, and I just begin to cry, and then I get angry because I'm crying. Like
that's so me. I get like when I have an emotion, I get angry because I have that emotion.
Yeah.
And that just adds like another layer of like.
But guys, where do we learn that? No, but seriously, where do we learn that? Because I think with emotions, we don't like to show emotion.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I feel like especially in society today, people pick at your emotions. So it's like, oh, you're emotional because this and this and this. Like, of course you're emotional. Like,
So they use it as a sign of weakness.
exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
I can definitely hear that. I think growing up, it's like, I'm not going to let you see me cry. I'm not going to
Exactly.
let you see that it hurt
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
But you know what I've also learned in like, this is why I love Jesus, because when he talks about being fully human and fully God, he allows us to say, I felt that emotion too.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in so many ways, instead of looking at our vulnerability and emotions as weakness, should it not remind us that we're still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we still feel. And that feeling is what's going to take us to the empathy eventually.
Yeah. In the devotional, it actually talks about like how our feelings are valid. You know, like throughout this whole devotion, like talking about different feelings. Like every feeling that we feel, it's valid. It's just what is causing you to feel like that. Because you were telling me in the car, like, okay, audience, what was the question that I asked you in the car?
How do we know when it's righteous anger
and then
when it's just like
anger over dumb stuff or something like that? So like, let me know in the comments if you guys know. But I know you told me like, okay, did it anger my ego?
Did it hurt my ego?
Did it hurt my ego or was it?
Come on. So I think for me it's like, okay, am I angry because it hurt my ego?
Yeah.
Or am I angry because I was discriminated against or somebody hurt someone?
For sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, is it somebody's hurting someone's leaving it out, or is it just because, ooh, you took a dig at me?
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, would attacking your ego, is that the same thing as like actually hurting your feelings? Like, hurting you?
I think it's different when it's like, when you're intentionally being like mean, which is not right in a sense at all.
Yeah.
But it's like, am I angry because you're trying to minimize me?
But what if it felt that way to you?
And I think that's the beauty of feelings, though. You get to decide how that makes you feel. And I think in any of that, God allows you to show, like, we have the right to ask God, like, did you ever feel this? Or how did you feel this way? Or how did you respond in that way? Because I think growing up, one of the things that I struggled with, especially in my anger, was told that we were never supposed to go to God in our anger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I've heard that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing once, like, God is big enough to handle your anger.
Yeah.
And that made me feel so good because my anger is when I cut somebody and punch somebody. You know what I mean? And God's and finally someone's like, no, God can take that.
Yeah.
Like, he can take that and he understands that. Like, there's even verses where you have where it's like, I'm gonna go and cut them down, and you know, they hurt my feelings. And when I read this, I'm like, yes, Jesus, go get them. Like, you know. But then there's also ones of like, be patient with them. I'm like,
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah, like
That's so hard.
oh,
like you don't even know my life.
I know.
Yeah.
That's when it's like when we're supposed to be like Jesus, and then he told us to do something. Like,
And
it
then we're
almost
like,
seems impossible, you know? Because if you hurt me, like, why am I gonna be nice to you?
Yeah.
Girl, bye. You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely
So-
not. But
So tell us, guys, how do you get to a point when somebody hurts you to be nice? Or what does it take to get there?
Forgiveness.
But what does that mean? Listen, don't give me the Bible answer. Don't give me like.
Sorry. I
don't
take
give me
it back. I take it back.
because Jesus said so. Like,
Oh, okay.
like, let's be real, guys.
But okay, I was gonna say, but that is real,
No,
honestly.
that's true.
Because like unforgiveness, there was somebody I was speaking to, and I was like speaking to her about how I was feeling and how angry I was feeling, and she told me that unforgiveness is like a poison that you expect for the other person to hurt more.
Wow.
And when I
Wait. Say that again, because that is too good. Say it again.
Preach.
Say it again.
Okay.
Boo, like.
Okay, unforgiveness is like drinking a poison, expecting the other person to hurt more.
Wow.
I had the exact same reaction. That's why I say like forgiveness is like, that's it. Like that's, because I've been on the other side where I've just like consumed with like this resentment, and it's controlling, honestly.
I was just about to say that, like with unforgiveness, it's like you're still allowing that other person who hurt you to control you.
Yeah.
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 And that just like,
I'm telling
Wow.
you, yeah. I'm telling you.
no, pues wow.
I'm telling
That's
you
it.
guys.
You know, that sounds like that quote that you were talking about, the forgiveness part where we're talking about.
Oh my gosh, guys, when I read it, I was like, first of all, I didn't understand it. I literally had to read it again because I was like, that didn't make any sense. But it's like
in talking about forgiveness.
Yeah, when it says right a lot, it's like, give me one. Okay. We choose to surrender our right to be right so we can make the relationship right. Because how many times as personally, I'm super stubborn. And so if it's not my way, it's no way. And I mean, obviously that's pretty bad, but like,
hey, we're being honest.
Yeah, that's something that I have to work on. But like, it's so true. Like, in order to forgive, you have to bring, how do I say this? You have to not think about yourself for a little bit. You have to like not belittle yourself, but almost say, okay, Emily, you're not the only person in this situation. There was another person. So like, let's look at it. Like, what have they been going through that maybe caused them to feel like this or act like this? You know, like, it's like
trying to understand their position.
Exactly. And then it talks about like having grace and mercy. Like, how is it that people can okay, I've just been on a whole different topic, but
no, but I like that when you think of like giving up your right to be right.
Yeah.
To what is it?
To make the relationship
right. To
right.
make the relationship right. And when you think of that with people, you kind of have to be like, you know what? I love you enough and I care for you enough that I'm gonna choose to be kind instead of right.
Exactly.
So that we can make this relationship. But when I think of Jesus, and when I think of God, and when I think that God chose to give up his right to be, he gave up his right to like say, I am God and I do win. He gave up his right to be right so that he can save that relationship with us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh. I don't even think I thought about that when we were like having this devotional like that. Blows my mind because he had the power at the very beginning of this world of like when Satan and his angels, like in the middle of the battle, he had the right and the power to stop it and be like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're completely wrong. And I can stop this right here and right now. But because he wanted to show love and mercy to the other angels who were there, he's like, I'm going to give up my right to be right. And I'm going to be merciful and not destroy you and send you. And oh my goodness, if we would think like Jesus, how many relationships would we not save? And guys, and I think that's hitting me hard because I have to hold myself accountable to that. And that's not easy.
It's not. Admitting that you're wrong is one of the hardest things to do. Especially me personally. You know what I mean? Wow, my knuckles just totally popped.
And not only admitting that you're right, but we saw, Emily and I were chatting, and we saw this thing of like, there was a quote that I saw that it said, between the choice to be kind and to be right, choose to be kind. And that made me angry.
Honestly, hearing that, it makes me hard to grasp it. You know? And to believe it.
And to apply it.
And to apply it,
But I also had to sit with, why does that make me angry? You know? Like, why, when I'm arguing with somebody, is it important that I make myself, that I need you to know that I'm right?
Yeah, actually, going back to the thing, back to the devotional anger, it's like, it's okay to be angry, and when you take action, or don't take action because you want revenge, but take action in a way that's going to glorify and honor God, you know? So it's like just because they made you mad, guys, like, where was I going with this? Like, just because they made you mad does not, oh my gosh, I completely blanked.
That's okay. That's how we roll around here. So let's talk about righteous anger. Let's talk about righteous anger, because we can talk about anger that when people hurt us and when they hurt our ego and that kind of thing. Right. But what do you guys think? What does that mean, righteous anger?
Yeah, I had to literally look up righteous because I was like, what? Because I was like, righteous anger, what does that mean?
What does that mean to you, Miko? Or what is it you learned from the study that it meant to you? what do you think of when that comes to mind?
Honestly, it's kind of a hard concept to grasp. Because when I think of anger, I always have like this negative connotation with it.
Yeah.
And like to see anger as a righteous thing or a right thing, that's like really hard. Like, what is that? Like,
well, I think when we look at the comparison to Jesus, remember when Jesus got angry at the temple? Mm-hmm. He was angry, like he literally says, "You are making my house of prayer a den of thieves." And so Emily and I were talking about this when Jesus like turned over the tables, is because there were people came to the temple to make sacrifices, and the sacrifice was kind of a communion with God, and it's like coming to forgiveness of their sins. But here you had the people at the temple who were stealing from them, because there are people who are bringing animals, and it's like, yours has a blemish, it's not good enough, but I have this one that I can sell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they were taking advantage of them. And so Jesus is like, wait a minute, you're like, this is supposed to be a house of prayer. This is supposed to be where people come and seek me, and you're taking advantage of them. Like, that's not okay. So I guess when I think of righteous anger, to me, it's like watching injustices. Yeah. Watching people get hurt. Right. Watching people. So I constantly say, and guys, again, I know I need Jesus. But I work with people who are victims of crime. Mm-hmm. You guys know this, who are victims of like abuse, domestic violence, sexual violence. And so I think that I have righteous anger when in my head I have like a hit list of offenders. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, I know the hit list idea. Pray for me. Okay? I know I need Jesus. But I see the thing it does to victims. Yeah. I see that it makes them shameful. I see that it makes them fearful. I see that it takes their self-esteem. It rips families apart. I see how women struggle to love again after they've been abused. I see women struggle with, and not only women, men as well. Yeah. I see them struggle with self-worth, with valuable, and that makes me angry.
Yeah. So like to question, like, you know how you were saying like a hit list? So like almost like if you were to see them, you would want to like beat them up, right? Yeah. So it's like I understand like that's considered righteous anger because it makes you so mad, you know? But like,
so anger and what they do is righteous anger. I think creating the hit list is revengeful.
Okay, right? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's like being angry at the sin, like the act of that, you know, that sin really that people put on others, I guess. Yes. For lack of better words. But yeah, I think being angry at the sin that's happening is, I guess, what righteous anger is.
But righteous anger also calls us to action. It talks about it, where it's like, it calls you to, like, if you see something that's not okay, like, do something honorable to change that. That's going to honor God to change that. Yeah. So for me, part of the change is like, I want to help people heal from this kind of thing. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. I also get to be a part of like policy changes of like, you know, I don't know if you know this, but not always offenders lose their parental rights kind of thing. So changing policy to like, no, if this person can abuse this child, then they can possibly abuse their other children. So they don't need to keep their parental rights. You know what I mean? So those kinds of things. So even injustices now, like when we think of the world and what it is, there's a lot of injustice.
There is. Yeah.
So let us know, guys, what's the righteous anger that you have a heavy heart for? Ladies, what kind of righteous anger do you have? What are the things that give you righteous anger? Because I can tell you, for me, is definitely offenders. Yeah. And definitely non-believing parents and non-protective parents. Like that to me
I see.
Is hard. Yeah. Because I love kids and I think I'm a natural like mama bear kind of thing, and when I see unprotective parents,
for sure, I can speak for that.
And I'm very overprotective, you know what I mean?
I can speak for that too.
So when I see unprotective parents like that to me is righteous anger, but I also want to be a part of the solution, which is why I don't want kids to like ever feel unloved.
For sure.
In that sense. So I ask you guys, what gives you righteous anger?
I mean, for what the devotional said, it says, often the things that we get angry about reveal what we care about. Yes. So I was like, wow, I must care about a lot since I get angry all the time. No, but
amen.
I absolutely cannot stand when people are not being treated fairly. Absolutely hate it. Like, I cannot. And praise God that nothing's happened to where I see it or I hear it, because I know I would go off. But in order to prevent from that happening, I want to think about, like, okay, how can I be a part of the solution to not make the situation worse, and also help the people that are the victims,
or shine light on that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that makes me mad. Like, I cannot stand injustice. I really can't. Yeah, I do really not.
I think one of the things that we also, so remember when we talked about like kids in cages and we went to that protest in Dallas?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of like the solution, is making awareness and kind of doing part of that.
I love doing that stuff. And it's like, it does feel better when you're part of the solution rather than getting revenge. Because how many times have you gotten revenge? Like, honestly, hello? Like, not to like put you on the spot, but like, I personally gotten revenge. And does it make you feel any better than what you been?
No, it doesn't.
I was gonna say, it looks like she wants to say yes.
Okay, maybe a little bit. But I think overall, I don't know, like, I've been in that place where, yeah, like, I did take action in my revenge, but it didn't bring the satisfaction.
Didn't bring joy. It didn't, and it didn't take away
the pain. Yeah. It doesn't.
Yeah. So what are some things that you see that make you, like, some injustices that you see that kind of get you upset?
I wouldn't say what I'm about to say is an injustice, I guess. I would think, like, if somebody hurt me and I see that person hurt somebody else the same way, like, that to me, like, that makes me angry.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't you learn your lesson and not hurt the other person, you know? And I see that, and it makes me sad because, you know, maybe now, like, that other person's gonna experience the same pain that I feel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, that makes sense.
And that's totally valid. Like that's totally, like,
yeah,
okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think that also leads into empathy. Like, when we hurt about something, if we finally understand how other people hurt, and that's another thing that I was talking to Emily about. Like, I have always been taught, and when I learned that it was okay to argue with God and be angry with God and be like, why did you let this happen, or why did these things, like, when I finally figured out that God can take it, I also asked God, because remember, he's fully human and fully God, and in that fully human piece, he felt everything that we do. And so part of the thing that I always need to bring me down from that righteous anger instead of, like, revenge, I always ask God, like, show me when you felt this way. Like, show me when you felt this way. And I've had to ask that in several cases, like with, like, offenders, with family members, when I was, like, brokenhearted, like, like, even as a parent, like, there's so many things where I'm like, show me where you felt this way. And then God's like, are you serious? Let me tell you about this story.
Pulls out the list.
He's like, what are you talking about? Like, in times where I have felt betrayed by a friend, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and God's like, let me tell you about my friend who like betrayed me for 30 for 30 coins. You know? And so when I see that, it also takes me back to, like, wow, God, I know how horrible this feels, but I don't ever want to make you feel this way.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I understand God's forgiveness towards me. You know, and it's just like, oh, forgive me when I have made you feel that way.
Yeah.
And like, help me not do that again.
Yeah. And going off of what you said, like, God show me, you know, that also ties into our faith. And it says, like, our faith and our feelings, they're connected. So when we are feeling something, God, like, please, like, go to me. I can give you the right solution, you know. So it's like, you have to have faith in order for him to show you why you're wrong or why you're right, or how to justify your feelings and how to go about doing it the correct way and honoring him, you know. So it's like, your faith and your feelings, they're connected. But as soon as you feel something, he wants you to go to him. Because when we see Jesus here on earth, and he was like when he was on the cross, he was like, God, like, he went to his Father, you know, and he's like, please do that. I set you guys that example, so do that do that to me so I can help you, so you don't make a fool of yourself, or you don't get even more hurt, you know, or cause pain to other people. Because there have been times where I'm so mad and so angry that I want to inflict the same pain they inflicted on me. Ooh, and in any way, is that right? You know what I mean? Right. So
that's the revenge kind of piece.
Yeah.
What?
No, that makes sense. So let me ask you this. In forgiveness, does forgiveness take away the emotions of pain?
No, it was saying in the, devotional, that forgiveness is a choice.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a feeling, but it's a choice.
Explain that to us, Miko. And let us know if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Is forgiveness an emotion or is it a choice?
For sure.
Well, okay, forgiveness is a choice because, I don't know, like, feelings are very strong and they don't just disappear like that. And you can't just turn them off either.
Yeah.
So yes, you can feel angry. Like, for me, when I think of something, or when I think of like something that happened to me in the past, and I think about what happened, and it makes me angry because it hurt me, and I have to kind of like center back myself and say, okay, like, I choose to forgive, even in the midst of that feeling. And honestly, like, when that happens later on, I actually feel kind of better because I made the choice to forgive no matter like how.
So you have peace in your anger, but you have peace in your choice.
Yeah, I say peace in my choice.
Which takes the example of like how Jesus calms the storm and brings peace upon it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it does calm your storm.
Yeah, it does.
And kind of when you take that control back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Like, because it's like, I'm choosing how this is going to affect me. I'm still angry.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm choosing to forgive you, and I'm choosing to choose how I respond.
Yeah.
Wow, Miko.
I can't snap.
This is just experience, guys. Like, I'm telling you, there are times where I'm just angry, and I just sit there.
Part of the lesson was also talking about how in our experience and our emotions are a gift, because that's how we understand God more. That's how we become more intimate with God.
Yeah.
Like, so I loved how it said our emotions are not separate from our relationship with God. Our emotions are gifts to bring to God, because we bring how we are. We come to him exactly how we are, right? And he then revives that and gives us his fruits of the Spirit. So he gives us joy, peace, he gives us happiness, and he gives those back to us so that we then go back and give them in return with that forgiveness. Yeah. Wow. Part of the thing that Emily and I were talking about, even, I know this isn't part of it, but when he talked about Lazarus.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I remember that part.
Do you remember that part where he talked about Lazarus, and he's like in his pain, but he cries out, he's like, Lazarus, come out. And Emily and I were kind of just like astonished, because when Lazarus comes out, he's still wrapped in these clothing. Like, I imagine Lazarus like, what just happened? Like, what? He's like, guys, I was sleeping. Who did this? Like, you ever like woken up when somebody did something to you with like something on your face or something, and you're like, y'all are wrong for this. You know? I can't imagine Lazarus didn't wake up and be like, he can't even speak because he's literally wrapped, and he's like, like, let me out of this. And Jesus literally, like, and what I love about that is that Jesus speaks like, Lazarus, come out. And when he says that, he tells the people, like, unbind him. Yes. And what I love about this scenario is, like, when Jesus calls us, he calls us right where we are.
Yep.
In our anger, in our sin. Like, he revives us.
Like, he meets us there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so.
And it's our job as Jesus's followers and as his people to untie them. And what that means, it doesn't mean we get to point out their sin. No. Like, that's not our job. Our job is not to resurrect.
Right.
Our job is not to bring back to life. Our job is not to convict. That is totally the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Our job is to unbind them from that. And what that means is love them where they're at, so that I can keep calling them. So that I can keep and that to me was like
mind blowing.
Because in that sense, I also feel like I get to be like, wow, even in my anger, even when I'm dead in my feelings, because how many of us have not felt dead in emotions?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Even when I feel worthless, when I feel sad, when I feel yucky, when I feel ugly, when I feel all these things, I can feel dead.
Yeah.
And I can bring that to God. And even like that, God calls for me. Even like that, I think it was in Galatians where he says, you're still chosen. I still chose you. And I love that because he shows mercy on those who are watching, and he shows mercy on that person he's bringing back to life. And one of the greatest things that I all remember with Jesus is when Jesus is on the cross and he is crying out to his Father. I don't know if you guys, one of my favorite books is The Desire of Ages. And I love in The Desire of Ages where it talks about like it was noon when he died and it was completely dark. And the reason it had to be dark is because God wanted to be near his son.
Yeah.
But he had to make it dark because if it wasn't dark, everybody who was killing his son would have died. Like his glory would have killed everybody there.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Because if somebody's coming for my baby, I'm going to cut you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like, but God in his loving loves sinner. And like, when you think about it, he is defense attorney and he is prosecutor. Like he is there for Jesus and he's telling you, I love you. I'm here. Like, I know you don't feel it because you feel separated from me, but I'm right here. But if I'm right with you, everybody else is going to perish and this is going to be pointless. So he makes things go dark, and it's like he has to make it go dark so people can come to him.
Yeah.
So is that also a gift to us?
Yeah.
Our dark emotions are gift. It's a calling to God.
Yeah, it's a blessing in disguise because, there have been a lot of ups and downs, especially in our family.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, like in the midst of a storm, you're like, oh, this is pretty ugly. But like after the rainbow, the beautiful, the fresh smell of the rain, like it's like, okay, I had to go through that to get this. It was worth it,
Yeah.
But no, I definitely agree with you.
So empathy. Yeah. Empathy. What is that verse that says through like trials kind of builds character and through your character builds like empathy and grace for others? Oh my gosh, what is it? Sorry, come on, save me here, Kano. We need we need the pastor. I am not the pastor. But you know what I'm talking about, right? So guys, share with us. We want to hear from you. Like what has been the negative emotion that you feel has taught you the greatest lesson?
Yeah, for sure. That might be a little.
It might be a little too much and a little too deep.
Okay.
But this is a safe place.
Yeah, and if you're too scared to say anything, you can contact one of us, or you can contact me. We're here for you guys. No, I'm just kidding.
But what about you, ladies? Let's be the example and share with them.
What was the question again? Sorry.
So what has been one of the strongest kind of emotions, or one of your darkest emotions that you feel like was the lesson, like you learned more about Christ in that intimate moment, in that tough moment?
I would say depression. Depression can definitely point to like the darkness, to the lowest of bottoms, and I've definitely been there. And in that journey of like building myself back up with God, when you look back at that dark place and compare it to where you are now and how high you are, it's like I had to go through all of that in order to get to where I am.
Wow.
And I feel like also like, I don't know if this is like true, but like the lower you go, the higher you'll end up being. That makes sense. Because if you go low, I mean, you're gonna like build yourself up to the point where like you've never been before.
Well, also, if you're at the very bottom, you got nowhere else to go but up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also heard like rock bottom is like the perfect foundation to make something super great.
Right. To start over.
Kano, did you find the verse?
Yes, so it's going to be James 1, and it says, James 1:2, starting in verse 2. It says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials and many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And so remember that this is James, who was Jesus' brother, who did not believe Jesus for basically almost through his whole life. And so he thought he was crazy. He was like, I have a crazy brother.
Like, this man thinks he's the Christ.
And this is the first thing that he starts writing. And he's like, hey, consider pure joy. All those things, basically, all the hurt, the pain, all those things, you're able to build from it when you have a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that when we talk about anger with Jesus, it was talking about every time he knew why that was happening.
Yeah.
If somebody hurt him, he's like, I have a deeper understanding that this will produce something.
Yes.
And I think that's where we can start with that mentality. We can start forgiving.
And so I think it also says, consider it pure joy because you are feeling the same emotions Jesus did.
Yep.
And it creates a connection. Like, do you not connect when it's kind of like when you're talking about depression. Like when you meet somebody else who's been through depression, it's like, boo, I got you.
We know.
Yeah.
We know.
And it creates an intimate relationship. So it's like, consider it pure joy because you're growing in faith.
Yep.
You're growing in that relationship with Jesus, and you're getting to know him personally. Like personally, just for you, just a relationship that you and him get to have.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Nico. I appreciate that.
Big props to you.
You, Emily, what about you?
Oh.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, it's okay. I probably doubting him is a really, especially 2018, this terrible year. No, I doubted God a lot, and the biggest lesson it taught me was not to look with my human eyes, but trying to grab my whole life into his eyes and see like, wow, like Emily, you are so much more than, oh my God, am I gonna cry? No, I'm not gonna cry, just kidding. You're so much more than what you're feeling like right now, you know? And so it was like, even though I doubted him and I was like, God, you are not there for me, like he still wanted to help me and help me see like you are worth more than what's happening right now. And like, yeah.
And guys, Emily,
I'm just kidding.
Ooh, yeah, I think it'll be okay if that when she says 2018, our family went through a lot. Like we had 3 deaths that year. We also had like people run away. Like we had a lot of family tribulations 2018. So when she says 2018,
Miko, you're so sweet.
It does though.
But I also think that 2018, at least 2 years later, looking back, we get to see that Jesus was there.
Yeah.
Because although 2018 took away a lot, 2018 bounded our family. Like 2018, we held each other closer because we knew how fragile life was.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would have understood that any other way. Like, and I think that's how God is for us. I think when we lose someone, God's like, hold on to me, I got you. And I think that's beautiful because through Lazarus, it was that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a verse that was just 2 words long. Jesus
wept.
And I think that's profound because he cried knowing he was about to resurrect
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Like, and I love in the English version, it says Jesus cried out, Lazarus come out. And guys, when I think of Jesus calling out, like my uncle who passed away, you know, and the reason I think when he says unbind him, it's like go and hug him and love him, because if we were to see again the people who left us, like my cousin, my cousin Junior and my uncle David, like if God would have said, David, come out, like the first thing I'm gonna do is run and hug them and hold them and love on them. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that's why the unbinding is like, I just want you to love. Just love them so they can get to see me, because they don't trust me in their own experience. So if you love them, they can see that they're worthy for me to be loved them too. You know, and I think that's what that's kind of that sense of empathy. And when we see people hurting that way, and when we've experienced loss, that allows us to empathize. Like, I got you. Like, I feel you. Kind of like, I think for you, if you see somebody who's in that state of depression, you can be like, come talk to me. Like, let me pray for you.
Yeah.
You know, for me, my uncle passed away of cancer. So cancer survivors are people who have family members who have cancer like that. It's like, I feel you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was hard to see that. It was hard to put that. Also, we had a unexpected death, like with a car accident. Like every time we see a car accident, we hold our breath, like, and we literally say, I hope everybody made that.
Right.
Like that's real. You know, I think that's where empathy. And so I also think it means consider it pure joy, because it gives us the gift of empathy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think for me, though most of you know, I think the hardest thing that I've been through is kind of like surviving my abuse when I was a child.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of why God called me to be like, I need you to go and be an advocate for these individuals, because you can empathize and you can fight for them in that sense. And don't get me wrong, I think emotions are big. So sometimes, so kind of like that, in your need to be kind or to be right.
Yeah.
Like, I think when my abuse came out, I wasn't always believed. So it triggers that, like, I gotta be right, because if I'm not right, then you don't believe me, and then you don't kind of thing. But I have to work through that in my own emotions. And Jesus is like, I know what's true. You don't gotta fight for that. I know it's true. It's written right here. Like, be kind. And I think of Jesus, how many times could he have proven, like, dude, I'm right. You know?
Yeah.
And I think of his mercy for offenders, which is hard for me to understand. Emily and I were talking on the way here. You know, when Nathan went to David, and he told David the story of the man who had many sheeps, you know, and then he had this one man who only had one sheep. So when Nathan was trying to call out David, or when, you know, in his sin, and David got angry because the rich man took the poor man's one sheep, like, that was righteous anger.
Yeah.
Because he's like, what? I don't think David realized that was righteous anger towards himself. But even then, how lovingly was God that Nathan went to David one-on-one.
Yeah.
That even God comes to us in our sin and be like, I'm not going to expose you. I'm not going to do this. And like, this is just you and me. Mm-hmm. And he calls us even then to like repent and be like, well, let's look at how you can rectify this. Like, let's look at how you can do better.
For sure.
You know, and I have to think that when God, when Jesus told, who was it? Mary? No. Was it Mary or Martha? I think it was Martha. When he said, Martha, I am the resurrection. I am the life. Like, if you believe, like, I can revive Lazarus. And she's like, oh, Lord, I know he's going to come back to life, like, in the second coming. And he's like, no, I am the resurrection now. Like, now. Like, I can do this now. And I think when we hold on to that, it gives us hope to, like, in our anger, in our emotions, God can revive that into joy, into peace,
For sure.
you know, into forgiveness, you know, and into empathy for others. So,
just to add to that, it's not an emptiness of emotions. It's not to get to a place where emotion no longer is part of your life. And just to clarify that verse, because we went through that verse super quickly, but when it says consider joy, it doesn't mean consider joy that you're hurting.
yes.
It says consider joy whenever, like in the midst of your trials, not because of your trials. Don't consider joy that somebody hurt you, that, you know, that's not what it's saying. It's saying in the midst of the trials, consider joy. But then it says because your faith produces perseverance. In order to persevere anything,
Yes.
God has given us the gift of emotions to be able to persevere. Those are like when you were talking about losing for us, for our families, 2010, 2009. That's what I can go back to. Like when we're talking about family, I can go back specifically to where my brother lost his baby boy. And for me, those emotions and those moments that we cried together, those moments that we laughed together, those moments are all part of our growth and faith of perseverance. And then it says that, then let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete. And I saw that last summer with my brother. He was complete.
Yeah. What verse was that, Chrono?
That's James 1. James 1, 2.
1, 2. I think wrapping things up, the last thing I want to add is like, it says here, our emotions draw us closer to our Creator, allowing Him to strengthen us, draw near to us, and carry us.
Amen.
So, mic drop.
Ladies, thank you for joining us. Cano, thank you for also sharing your experience with us.
Thank you for leading us out, Thea.
Yes. You know, how do you guys feel about ending in prayer? Because I feel like this was such a blessing and conversation.
For sure.
Guys, if you also want us to pray for something as well, if you're in the midst of a storm, if you're needing peace, if you're needing fruits of the Spirit like the rest of us, because you need Jesus just like I do, let us know. We want to pray with you. We want to pray for you. But more than anything, we want to connect. And if there's anything that we can do to help, I know I'm happy to. I know so is Emily and Miko. So thank you for being with us. Do you guys?
Sure.
Do any of you want to pray? Or I don't mind doing it.
Who's that?
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to praise you for our emotions. We want to praise you for, just calling us just as we are. We thank you for always accepting us. We thank you for all that you have shown us, Lord, and for continuing to show us that you feel exactly what we have felt, Lord. And that even in our pain, we can consider that joy because we get to understand you in a more intimate way, Lord. I ask that you continue to be with all the UG students. I ask a special blessing for Emily, for Miko, and for Pastor Cano, Lord. Continue to guide us and continue to just draw us closer to you. We ask this in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a happy Sabbath, and we'll see you next week.